Welcome. I'm your moderator for today. I think what I think Shrikant indicated to me, and I would love to discuss is the following. See, two basic things before we start off is one. I think this session is sponsored by Nickelodeon, so we should give a big round of applause for them. And the second one is for everyone in the audience, please start putting your questions on the chat box so that we have the questions that we can ask the panelists as well. So please shoot your questions. We will take it up at the last 15 minutes of this session. So gentlemen, I mean, I think where we are coming from is, I think I was reading some agency reports in the last few days, is how bad the Q1 had been, which I currently somebody is putting it at about 8% degrowth, and Q2 would be roughly about 65 to 70% kind of degrowth. What we want to discuss, to be honest, is how will the rest of the year look like, more a forward-looking thing. If this is the kind of degrowth that has happened in the past, in our immediate past. Last year, for example, in Q2, we had, I think, the ICC World Cup, the IPL, and also elections, March, April, that kind of time. This year, in H2, what do we look forward to in terms of categories, in terms of tent poles? And we have two from the either side of the spectrum today, from the buy side and the sell side. And let's try and paint a picture for the audience, basically, of what would be H2 looking like. I come from, I have been reading up some reports of consumer offtake, and there is Rajiv here, he can supplement me on that. I think there was some report today in ET which says the 30 to 50% is your pre-COVID. I'm saying pre-COVID levels. From pre-COVID to now is just about 30 to 50% levels of consumption in retail. Whereas, say, for example, in auto sales, there was a report, I think today or yesterday, which says that we are back at 2009-10 levels. So these may be just indicators, but we need to understand the total picture, what's happening on the ad spend side, and what's happening actually, how much are people spending, what would they be spending in the rest of the year till March, and why. That's the thing. So what we will do is we'll go around the table quickly, or you can take your time and talk to us about your perspective of how do you see H2 happening, both from the buy side and the sell side. And then we come to some specific things about what's happening in your own story. Shall we start with Mahesh? What do you think is happening how do you see from a Viacom point of view? What do you see the H2 looking like, and why? In terms of categories, in terms of some of the tentpole properties that you may have, or why do you see what is happening?
So, Partho, when you say H2, you mean
October to March.
October, March.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I think, for our portfolio, which is our portfolio is primarily entertainment channels. I think, the first thing that we need to understand is that for any business, is your consumer there? And thankfully for us and entertainment channels primarily, the consumer is there. The consumer is not only there, the consumer is growing, the consumer is spending more time. And so from that point of view, I think television per se, I think we're lucky that the consumer is still with us. The second part is in terms of brands, I think the worst is behind us, which is Q1, where because of the lockdown, at one end there was consumer demand which was constrained. The other thing is that in terms of manufacturing, supply chain, everything was under pressure, and that is behind us. And as lockdown has opened up, consumers are going out and buying. And for a GEC channel network, primarily GEC network like ours, bulk of our business comes from FMCG clients, and FMCG clients, their sales are broadly back on track. And with that, we've seen a good surge in demand. Okay, and versus Q1 or Q2, there is a month on month, there is the demand for advertising is only growing. And I think H2, this trend will continue. And I think H2 for us I don't see us going negative. Okay, I think the overall demand for advertising will only be higher. Also, I think if you have to look at the marketer, if he has to do a marketing plan today, some of the other mediums, they have lost their consumer. And when I look at print or cinema advertising or radio advertising, they have lost their consumers. Television has not lost the consumer. Actually, like I said, the consumer is only growing. So the reliance of brands on television and on say Viacom network also would be far higher, and that's why I think H2 will be good for television. It should be something that will be positive for television. I mean, I don't see television having any pressure on H2, primarily because the demand will be back, and it is already coming back, and H2 will be far stronger, is my guess.
Okay. So you spoke about FMCG back on track. Rajiv, would you agree on that? I mean, what do you see as your perspective for the rest of the year?
Hi, Partho. Hi, everyone. The quarter one results which we saw last month, which came out, so it had an effect of the month of April, which was mostly lockdown, right? So it was a very difficult quarter, so as to say, the first quarter. I think second quarter, we would see a lot of these things changing. One is that, the lockdown has eased up and the distribution is going to be in place. So one is that, this quarter is going to be relatively much better than the first quarter. As far as the demand is concerned, I think demand is also a factor of, whether people are able to reach the marketplace and they are able to buy things they need in our business, especially. So that is also changing. Like, I mean, you see that, people are able to go to market and they are able to buy products. They are able to reach out to, we are able to reach out to consumers, to our distributors in a much better way. So it's going to really help us in these quarters, in the next 2-3 quarters, I would say. As far as the media is concerned, talking specifically about media, 13th of June, unlock in media started happening and started getting the new fresh content. And very glad to see that the numbers are back as well. It started with South, started with Kerala, Asianet, and those channels started coming back. Then other southern channels, then West Bengal. And as soon as the fresh programming started in Maharashtra and Hindi, the ratings are back. The viewers are back on television. So it's just a matter of time. If advertising is not happening 100%, it'll be back very, very soon. I think the only dampener in the next couple of months could be that IPL might conflict with the GCs, and that might take away some money. Otherwise, I see next couple of quarters to be a very, very good quarters. The only sad part has been that cinema, we saw that pitch report that day. It was minus 100%, absolutely zero sales. Print was pretty bad too. I hope that print also recovers very soon as their distribution is in place, the circulation is in place. So I think we're in a similar ecosystem, FMCGs and television and radio and print. Everybody's in a similar ecosystem, and we all suffer together, we all grow together. So that's how it's been.
That's true. Good. Ashish, what about where do you see it from Z point of view? You cover multiple genres, I mean, of television, not just entertainment, across the spectrum, from regionals to news to everything. So how do you see it panning out next few years? And are there any big tentpoles? For example, I'm sure Mahesh would be planning for Big Boss and things like that. Are you planning for any big tentpoles in the next part of this year?
Thanks, Partho, and good evening to everyone, and good evening to all the viewers. Okay, so just to, before I come to your specific answer to your question, let me just put a, pretext to it. Television in last 6 months, from the consumption point of view of its own consumer, which is the viewer, never saw any decline. In fact, there has been an increase in TV viewership for last 6 months, ever since, or 4 months, and ever since the lockdown started, because people had nothing to do at home but then watch television or video content. Hence, the consumption of video per se, whether it was online, OTT, or for that matter of fact, on television increased. Yes, during first 3 months of the lockdown, when the fresh content on GC wasn't there, the genres like news, cinema, music, these were the genres which actually saw huge surge in their viewership, etc. And now when the content, like Rajiv just said, when the fresh content started in the mid of June, we are able to, rather mid of July, we are able to now get that similar kind of ratings or probably more on the GC part of it as well. Now that sets the, base consumption as far as the habits are concerned of, habit of consuming video, etc. Now there is a consumer available, and now with the unlock happening, all the other businesses are also opening. When their other businesses are opening, they need some way to communicate to the consumer and start to induce consumption for their particular products. And I think television is the best medium right now, because of, everyone knows the reason, etc. And as I mentioned just right now. So hence, yes, I see television's, growth in last 3 to 4 months has been now coming back. Going forward, which is, your specific question was for the next Q2, which is October to March, possibly, H2. That is the time I think the television, advertising will come back, or I think to its pre-COVID levels. That's my perspective. Now you will say where it is going to come. I think as right now Mahesh just said that FMCGs are coming back and advertising more and more. In fact, Rajiv is on a plan of launching almost 40 products in next 6 months, which he didn't mention. But his company did say in the press. So we see that with these new launches and the new categories which has been developing, specifically in the hygiene side, when FMCG is investing in that. Then, your health categories which has come in, your gaming category has become very big suddenly because people have at home and play a lot of online games. So online gaming has also increased advertising. So these are the new categories. See, anytime whenever you see any recession or any kind of deluge in one particular category, there are some new categories which emerges. And this, pandemic has given in impetus to actually, couple of categories like gaming, health, online education. These are new categories which are coming on and now advertising on TV. They were earlier advertising, but possibly were not on TV, or I would say linear TV. They were mostly on the digital format. And now with their consumption growing, they're also now looking at brand building and creating that trust with the consumer. And I think that's what TV brings in, the trust factor, authenticity like print does. So today we are also, from a television point of view, are also playing the role of print somewhere, where it used to induce sales. Because of print circulation being down right now and people are not consuming a lot of content on, print, I think this will, for the interim till the time print comes back, TV will gain in their absence. Now, from the Z perspective, yes, the last 2 months have been good. Month on month, we have been coming back in our, pre-COVID levels. We are almost, I think, 70 to 80% of our levels earlier than what we were at pre-COVID levels. Going forward, I think September is looking better than August, I would say that way. And October onward, when I think September end till November, there will be also IPL. I think IPL is going to be a good boon for the overall TV industry, because it will bring in a lot of advertisers to come and advertise. It becomes like an option for you to advertise, and what brings in also the new eyeballs on television, which further propels actually the overall TV viewing. And not that, then from the advertiser point of view, there is, amongst the advertisers, there is always a game of SOV. If people who are advertising on, IPL, there will be other categories or competitors who would want to advertise on GC, etc. With the kind of viewership which GC is sitting today, even if there is a little bit dent in prime time on your IPL, etc., there still is enough and more viewership for especially FMCG and those brands who are looking at cheaper CPRPs. They would still prefer. And we have always seen, even during April-May period, which is the original period of IPL, whenever IPL comes in, there is actually an overall TV growth, TV ADX growth. So I don't see firstly, any threat from IPL. I think it is only going to help grow the overall pie, and so will the GCs will also grow. And lastly, you asked me that if there is our impact properties. Yes, we are also planning during the Diwali season, some of the impact properties across our markets, not just in Hindi GAC. There are regional markets in which our impact is actually more effective than the Hindi one, which we've been having like Saregama. Our South has improved quite a bit. We have seen a good surge in the ratings in South market, whether be it Tamil Nadu. We are almost number 2 now. In fact, in last week became number 2 in that market. In Telugu market or Andhra Pradesh, we had lost, the number 2 position with a gap. Now we have closed our position with Starma there, so hence there is an improvement happening there. Kannada, we are by far the leader, and we have actually increased our leadership there as well. And Kerala also, we are steadily growing, and now almost giving good competition to Manorama and the other brands out there. As far as Bengal is concerned or Maharashtra is concerned, again, these 2 regional markets have started firing, and Bengal is where, despite those lockdowns, despite other problems which West Bengal government not still opening up the market completely, we are still seeing a lot of surge of advertising there. In fact, after Hindi, that is the market which has improved quite a bit. So that's the way overall. And cinema genre per se, is seeing a lot of growth. In fact, during COVID period also, that was a genre that was least affected. I'll also comment on news here, because news actually has come back and rather actually started to show growth over previous year. So that's the overall perspective on the total TV, all genres, if you see. So hence my optimism towards coming 6 months is even higher than possibly all panelists may have. But I'm pretty gung-ho that next 6 months should show coming back to normalcy, and possibly by the end of the year we start to see a growth over previous year, which is a very much needed requirement today.
That's quite optimistic, Ashish. So, Sashi sir, I mean, you have a full breadth of range of things that you oversee. So, what are your thoughts? I mean, do you see? I mean, obviously, IPL, you have a fairly large investment yourself. I mean, where do you see H2 looking? What do you see H2 looking?
I want to make 3-4 points, and I think Ashish alluded to them. So the first point is, you see, Indian economy is very sentiment driven. It's not a rational country, it's very sentiment driven. And I think this is the time, a little bit of sentiment with what I call small drops of joy, we can change the sentiment. And a lot of clients, whether in our portfolio or outside, are realizing this. So they're going to put, and this is a festival season for us, so next 6 months are the positive side. So I think a lot of companies are going to, including Rajiv, so I'm going to get, like when I heard Ashish say 40 launches, obviously it's based on certain hope of, triggering some demand. So I think after the hell of the last 6 months, every company will look at try to stimulate some demand through a positive sentiment. So that's the first thing. And I think a lot of properties are in that sense. The other thing which I'm noticing is that it's very company specific. So while there are broad categories which other panelists alluded to, which are obvious, but I'm noticing that it's very, I'll give you small examples. So in auto itself, while we have a big auto portfolio, some are not doing, but some are launching. There are lots of launches happening at this point in time, So people are saying, whatever the psychology, is it about social distancing or whatever. Similarly, I have an interesting story. We have in our portfolio 2-3 paint companies. One small paint company which is not focused on metros. The manager was telling me, he was saying, listen, we have seen our sales go up in August. I said, what's wrong with you? Why would anyone in this day and age allow painters to come over? That's what's happening. So there are companies which are doing well, and they will exploit, they will find their own pockets, and they will grow. And it is for us to talk of those stories. The third point is, which Ashish alluded to, is a very big point. India, unlike the West, is a share of voice market. So if one company does something, then someone else does something to stimulate demand, that happens across categories. So, and so that will happen. And the fourth thing is IPL. So, definitely, as Ashish very correctly said, it's a big property. It is an opportunity for a lot of advertisers to come on, not conventional advertisers. You saw the bidding, you saw Dream 11, you saw an Academy, you saw Byju's. These are not traditional CPG advertisers, which the panelists have been alluding to. So they'll come on, they will help stimulate the demand. So at one level, this conflict which Rajiv spoke about, share being divided. At another level, I think the larger point is with IPL coming in, it will stimulate a positivity in the country around brands and around consumption, and that's what will happen. So I'm very optimistic. Obviously, there have been tough times, so it's very difficult to say whether we'll go past last year's growth or not. But I generally feel that with all these factors, with one up, it's you do a small thing and it picks up momentum. So I think IPL is that energizer which has come in, and with all the properties which Ashish and Mahesh spoke about, and all the other channels networks which are launching, I think this is a great time. It may not be dramatic compared to 2019, but definitely far better than what has happened in the first 6 months.
Yeah.
So I hope and pray it's sustained. But to sum up, I'll say it's coming across. You can't pinpoint now. So within CPG, some companies are doing well, some are not. So it's not only categories. Within the e-commerce, I work with the largest e-com company. So we see within e-com, some are doing well, some are not. Some are spending money, some are not. But it's going to be very specific, and that is what you have to. But all these put together will create a positive momentum.
So I was, in fact, wanting to ask you that itself. You said it's a sentiment-driven market. Do you see auto, for example, I think you represent starting from Mahindra's to Tata's to MG to BMW, the whole spectrum, so to speak. Do you see them spending in the next?
So there you see auto what happened. Let me clarify, and and that's probably why people are not picking with us. If you see trends in auto, particularly in 4-wheelers, not so much in 2-wheelers, that in the last 2 years, auto spends were primarily around launches. So they were, they would not spend on a sustained basis. They would do a launch and then do minimal sustenance. And because the launches, the COVID and factory being down, the whole cycle got delayed. So the launches got delayed. But now you see launches are coming. MG is done, Hyundai is done, Mahindra is done, Thar. So all the launches are coming back. Now, obviously, cycles got delayed. Those cycles will come back. But as the cycles come back, they will spend. I know for a fact that MG has done a great job on the launch that they've done in spite of all the spin on China around them. Hyundai is doing a great job. Kia is spending a lot of money on the launches. And so will Thar. Thar has been launched. I'm sure when Thar comes out, there will be sustained pressure. So it's just about the launches. As the launches come out, you will find activity pumping up.
Yeah. I think Thar has done a great job in PR. I think that itself is driving their...
Yeah, but the launch is not yet. The booking will still happen.
That's right. 2nd October.
July, Maruti and Hyundai sales are almost the same as last year, July.
Oh, okay.
Some pent-up demand also because people have there.
So Mahesh, just to get into specifics, is Big Boss, I think 5th September was the date which was planned. Are we on track? Are we getting the same rates like last year? What's the story there?
Well, first of all, it's not 5th September. You'll soon get to know the date.
Okay.
In terms of advertiser interest, well, everybody knows that, because of, some of the Chinese apps going off and some of the Chinese brands, getting, out of the, they don't want to be in the consumer, mind space really, and they've pulled out of certain sponsorship. So we also face that with Big Boss and Vivo kind of taking a backseat on that. Having said that, we have a very strong partner over here who's who's part of this panel only.
Yes.
Had a great, season of, he was part of a great season of Big Boss last time, who's on board, and very strong traction from a lot of brands. I would call Big Boss the IPL of GEC. And there are many brands who don't want to be part of IPL because maybe it's not the right TG or sometimes it's the ticket size. And they are the brands who also want to be on Big Boss. So from an advertiser, standpoint, the response has been very good. We have, in terms of pricing, it is similar. It is not higher than last year. Actually, in normal course, it would have been far higher because last year Big Boss was the blockbuster season. It was the best ever season in 13. The 13th season. Normally 13th लोग बोलते हैं unlucky होता है, but हमारे लिए तो बहुत lucky था. And we had a very good season, and Dabur had partnered with us last time also, and they are on board this year also. We've got other brands are signing up, and the response from the market is very good.
Yeah. So, Rajiv, are you paying the same rates as last year?
So, it's very tough to negotiate with Mahesh,
No, I'm asking a pointed question. Are you paying the same rates?
I wouldn't like to comment on this right now. But it's a very tough market. Things aren't easy, things are not easy. Like we thought in the beginning of the year that rates would drop and everything. I don't think things are moving that way currently. And Big Boss being Big Boss, Big Boss, and there are some properties in the market like there's Big Boss, there is IPL, there is there's some properties which are there on the Z network, likes of Saregama and likes of Kapil Sharma show and all that. These properties, these sell by sentiments. They don't sell by demand and supply, and people do buy them. Whether you like it or not, to end up getting the full inventory on these shows, and they do very well season after season. So and Dabur has been a big part of Big Boss franchise all over the country, being it Hindi or Telugu or Kannada or Marathi. We have been repeatedly being present on these properties.
You're already with Star Ma, if I'm not mistaken, the Big Boss in Telugu.
Star Ma, we haven't signed it yet, but we're in the process. However, Hindi we are there. We are launching a new brand along with this. So we're hoping that this brand does well.
So Rajiv, I mean, with all these 40 new products, 40 new launches and all that, are you, because I was talking to some people in the marketplace, and are you looking at a different strategy because you are also investing in news a lot? I get to see the ADX.
That's right. Yeah.
So is the strategy changing for you? Is it because of this year, or is it because of the product range or something else?
So Partho, beginning of the year, if you remember, the news channels share was 5%. When the year began, by January, February, it rose to about 7%, just before the COVID crisis started. And around 24th of March, when the announcement of lockdown happened, it shot up to 21% share. And even after the unlocking has happened and everything, the news channel shares are still very high, at about 12%, 14%, And so because of which, one started investing in news, and the results have been very encouraging, advertising in news. And you can buy a lot of volume in news, although, numbers don't support it strictly, but, I would say it's working for us. It's done very well for us. And there was a period in which, Doordarshan had done very well, so we went after Doordarshan, and, then there was a phase of lull, between Doordarshan started going down and the GC new programming started coming up. There was a lull period. So we invested in news that time. And we're likely to continue with news channel this year. We're going to be there on news genre in a big way this year. Apart from our regular advertising, which is on GCs and everything. So that way, I mean, change of shift. I mean, I would say that, we are investing much more than news channels as we were earlier. So that's one shift which one has seen. And it's a very positive shift, I would say. You put a brand on news channels and immediately you see the impact, it gets noticed very well, very quickly. Although numbers don't justify it, again, I'll say that numbers don't justify because numbers are not as big as GCs or IPL, but you get very good visibility on these channels.
Sashidhar, Amul, your favorite client, Amul, always has, I mean, I think they were the torchbearer during COVID times.
Amul and Dabur.
And Dabur, of course. During COVID, and they also a lot of advertising.
Old commercials.
That's right. What is the advice you had given Amul? Because a lot of viewers may want to.
Yes, lucky. It's actually we were lucky. So I happened to be there. In protocol, this account I lead myself, and I don't very embarrassed you to tell the story, but it is a true story. 13 March, I was there, Mr. Sodhi. We were doing an annual review, and he asked what's happening in COVID. What's happened with COVID? It started, but lockdown had not been announced that time. So I said to him that if our experience of our from other countries like Korea, China, Japan, we had seen global networks, so there's an advantage. So I said this will happen, consumption will go up, you're a trusted brand. If you can manage your distribution, you must manage it. And I'm amazed that they manage the distribution. I'm very impressed for a perishable product like milk. So he said, you get me deals, I'll spend more than what I normally do. You get me the deals which all my partners on this network included, they helped out. And the rest is history. Then, of course, as the brave, you were lucky. People saw us in terms of visibility. We're doing all kinds of innovation. And then, as Rajiv mentioned, Dabur and Amul were the two companies of Doordarshan. When Mahabharat and Ramayana happened, that opportunity came. We picked it up at a very, very low outlay. And we were lucky the ratings went through the roof. And then this whole idea of retro and nostalgia came through. I think the good thing about Amul is, in spite of being a 50,000 plus crore company, it's a lean team and they're very quick to move. So I think, one of the big things is no hierarchy. Talk to a couple of them, Jen, Bhai, Kishore, Bhai, and Mr. Sodhi. You go with an idea, they move with speed, and a lot of ideas they think themselves. So I think for cooperative, it's epitome of marketing. I mean, what they don't teach your business schools, probably the cooperative learn. So I think it's a legacy of Dr. Kurian. So I think they latched on, and like I said, fortunately of the brave, they've been doing a lot of stuff which has done justice for them. Suffice it to say, I don't take too much credit, it's all them. They're the ones who did what they did.
Yeah, you're understated as
the idea of the haldi ice cream.
Sorry?
You give the idea of the haldi ice cream.
No, I didn't.
Really latched on to the health and
many products. They're launching many products.
Even your other clients, such as Samsung or even Coke, they're also addressing. Does Samsung see sales really picking up in the next few months?
So, very difficult to take specific names, but...
I'm just saying because then so many other companies in that genre...
I have come to the conclusion, and I'm not saying it, you come to your own conclusion of what I'm going to say next. I'm pretty outspoken without taking names. I've come to the conclusion that, if you have speedy decision making, it always helps. And unfortunately, global companies are restricted by, look at the Facebook controversies, the global fatwa pans out globally. Like the example you gave earlier of Amul, and you give an idea to Mr. Sodhi that, Rajiv will bear me out. He was also part of that. The Mahabharat decision was taken, the Ramayana decision was taken in a jiffy, A lot of decisions they took in a jiffy. Some, Mr. Sodhi's point of view, go wrong and go wrong. They've not done some 35, 40 product launches. They've done all those shows with chefs, the great idea. A lot of other companies are global in nature, when this whole Chinese versus other brands was happening on the handset. We went with a lot of ideas. A lot of them, maybe 90% didn't get implemented because the system had to be things. So that's the vein. In a situation like this, you have to be tactical, and not everyone can move with speed. Not grudging. That's how global companies and networks are run. That's what they are. But then when they move, the global networks, when they move then with surety and with firm-footedness. So that's the other side of the... I don't know if I answered your question without taking names.
So Ashish, do you echo Sashi's thing that, things like, for example, Samsung kind of categories, without the Chinese ones, I think there is a problem now, but do you see those things, that category going up in the next few months? Typically,
yes,
people buy mobile phones for Diwali, in today, like there's a Big Bazaar study, I remember a long time back it was done, that instead of gold, people were buying mobile phones or more. Do you see that happening in the next few months?
Oh, yes, definitely. In fact, so when you say mobile, not only just the handset, but the telecom category, I think will also come back with a lot of advertising in coming months, whether be it's, Jio or Airtel or Vodafone idea. And they're already in the midst of planning, and hopefully they should start advertising by next month. We are expecting telecom as well as the handsets and handsets, because initial they were just clearing their products which had landed before in the Indian shores, etc. So they were clearing the stocks, but now a lot of them are now shifting productions to India. But obviously, it will take some time to create inventory out of that. But given the situation and the current demand now, I mean, people have used their mobiles so much that I'm sure what they would have actually defuncted in a year. Last 3 months, people would have defuncted their mobiles. So I think there will be a need of more mobiles coming forward because people are consuming a lot of time on their mobiles and handsets, etc. So yes, there will be demand. In fact, couple of brands, I don't remember the name, which opened up in Amazon just post-COVID lockdown started opening up, and it was, they were sold in 1 day or 2 days. Still, this category is dominated by the Chinese brands, but I think it gives the, Samsung or an Apple, etc., an opportunity in India now to, gain back the market share, but they will have to shout about it. If they don't advertise about it, I think, again, it's, as I said, it's a share of mind, and, also inducing consumption amongst the consumer mind has to be done. So I see these brands coming back and starting to advertise, definitely.
I mean, just build on what Ashish made a very good point, like auto, handset is also for launches. And I'm reasonably sure there are a lot of launches lined up in the next 3-4 months. You'll see a lot of new sets, new models coming out, which is again going to be positive for this category.
So would that be enough for handsets, for example, the whole thing that you're losing with these Chinese ones, will that be enough, all the Samsungs and the new launches of Apple?
I personally feel, if I may respond, I think this Chinese thing on television is overstated. I think a lot of myths don't go, this whole thing has been built around the ground title rights of IPL. Purely my personal, is anything to me, I think that was something else. It was made out to be a Chinese versus, thing. When you see broadcast coming, you'll see the television part, the broadcast part of those spots coming on IPL. IPL will be a big revelation, not because it's a big property, but it will show the earlier part of sentiment. You'll see a lot of brands, some of them Chinese coming on, so this whole thing will get sorted out. And I know what I'm saying, it's just, you'll see in a month's time. So that will start the journey of positivity with this market is looking for.
Mahesh, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, how do you see this? Which brands, for example, you have some big properties coming up, Big Boss being one, Nagin has already started, couple of more things. Yeah.
I don't think that Chinese brand will stop advertising. Chinese brands will continue to advertise because they continue to do business. Okay. And it's just that they may not take sponsorship of big ticket properties. Having said that, they will continue to advertise because they're running a business. It's a competitive business. They will have their launches, and I think the advertising will continue. And I think during Diwali also they will have launches. Regular advertising will continue like they do. Maybe actually they may end up doing more. Okay, because it's just that they may not associate with big ticket properties. Okay, that's. And otherwise, I think in this festive, e-commerce will also, it will be big for e-commerce because, this entire thing of consumers not, going out to a store and shopping, okay, that may be, curtailed, and hence the play of e-commerce is going to be far bigger than it was in the previous years. So I think e-commerce pre-festive, I think will be very big. So Shashi sir's clients, Amazon or Flipkart or many others, I think it will be quite huge. So I think this festive will see a lot of action. And yes, there will be, like Ashish said, IPL will also boost a lot of, advertising, and to ensure there is share of voice, there will be advertising that will go across board. I think festival will see a lot of action across categories, including handsets and Chinese brands.
Okay. Rajiv, any last thoughts before I move to audience questions?
Yeah, so I just wanted to add to what Mahesh is saying. There are few shows, and which basically say that everything is all right. The moment you see something like IPL on air, the moment you see likes of Saregama on air, like you see Big Boss on air, you tend to think everything is back to normal. Everything is the way it was earlier. And I think these are very positive signs, going forward. And I think that's what is going to determine next 6 months. And I'm very, very optimistic that, things will be back to normal. And I hope that everybody comes back on the growth path, like we were in the last year. Last year didn't end too well. I mean, the March ending was a little subdued for most of the companies.
True.
But I hope that this year is going to be just the reverse, a big bang closing for everyone this year.
So put some numbers. Your H2 spends will be how much more than last year?
We're still estimating it, Partho. We are still at it. I can't comment on the numbers, but we are very optimistic of spending more this year.
Good. I will move to some audience questions. Many of them are anonymous, and some of them have names, but still, there was one for Sashisha specifically. Where's that? Yeah. Question for Sashi sir. Since he had said India is a sentiment-driven country, there's a lot of hatred for Chinese brands in India. How do you see it impacting ad spends? Partly you answered, but still.
Yeah, I don't think it will take away, as Mahesh said, the big properties will not be visible, but they will definitely spend. I repeat what I'm saying. Let IPL the example of sentiment, the first testimony of sentiment will be IPL on 19th, and you see all the brands going on 19th, you'll get a fair sense of what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
So I think human beings finally, sentiment, but that means sentiment translated into action.
But they have to have their products on the shelves. I think that's very important.
And that's why I said they're doing business. They're in India.
Yeah,
Xiaomi, which is the market leader,
yeah.
the company we work with, so they're there. They're selling. It's not that they're one of fashion. They're very much there.
That's right. They have made it no longer. It's a Chinese brand. They're trying to.
It's how you position it, but the fact is that they're doing business in India.
That's right. Mahesh, there's a question for you. It says in Big Boss, we always see brand integrations, contestants drinking Happy Fizz or playing poker, clicking selfies with Oppo, etc., etc. With the advertisers restricting ad spends, will those associations also get impacted?
Not at all. I think, the beauty of Big Boss is that I don't think there is any property like Big Boss which can give, the kind of brand engagement that Big Boss gives seamlessly. Okay, I don't think there's any other property. And that is the beauty of Big Boss, and that is what draws brands to Big Boss. And that will continue this year too. So if X brand was there last year, Y, I don't see that as a problem. That is the biggest draw of Big Boss, and that it will continue to be there this year also. And yeah, we'll see a lot of brands.
That's good. That's good. Ashish, there's a question for you, which is, I think there are a couple of questions for you. Let me pick up one or two, which is, do you feel it was harsh on part of, this is from Aishwarya Ramesh, for Ashish specifically, do you feel it was harsh on part of advertisers to withdraw from TV, especially the ones who were growing during the pandemic?
So Aishwarya, thanks for your question. I don't think so. It was harsh. We just mentioned a couple of brands like Amul and Dabur, etc., who, despite the lockdown and sales going down, they continue to advertise. So was, Hindustan Lever or P&G, and to name many other advertisers, they were still going on, and hence, because of which we almost had 30 to 40% still advertising happening on TV and didn't go exactly zero. But I would say that, it was a situation which was unprecedented. It was a situation which no one had seen before. Nobody knew at that time what will be the future. So everybody was, it was more like putting a guard in front of you, and hence they kind of held on to advertising for some time. But once they started to see and, how things are panning out, whether it is the disease, the way it is, or the virus, spreading, or the way government taking actions, etc. And once the confidence started coming back, advertisers have started to advertise back. If that was not the case, then possibly even now you wouldn't have seen the kind of revival we have seen in the last 2-3 months. But any given situation, everyone had a business loss. So it's not that, so people were really taking care in terms of their own P&L, and they had to safeguard that. So I won't say that it was harsh on their end. It was more like a cautious step which they were taking, and they have all the right to do that. So I hope I'm able to answer the question.
So there's one again. I think it's a little bit for you only, anonymous, of course, but I think you could clarify this. It says how TV channels are getting cannibalized by their own OTT content. What strategies can make them get them back, get their TG back to TV? Examples: Z on platform and Z5, so to speak. So they're saying Z OTT platform and Z TVC. So effectively between Z5 and Z.
Yeah. So I think, it's a wrong connotation to put it that way. OTT are increasing the, video consumption amongst those consumers who were possibly not watching TV earlier. So it's an opportunity for them to also now access television content at their own leisure, because OTT primarily, brings in consumer who wants to watch content at their leisure and their own timing. And it's not appointment viewing. So OTT is adding to that. It is increasing the overall consumer base for video content, and specifically, if it is the same network OTT, hence so Z5 is actually, if I add the Z5 audience and my TV audience, it has only grown to, almost 2x for last 2 years from that perspective. It is not eating into TV, audiences. If that would have been the case, you were with Bach and you know that the overall TV audience and specifically for our own channels have also grown. So whether it is a linear audience or whether it's an OTT audience, it is adding audience to this thing. Also, it is increasing time consumption of video viewing. So that is also again an opportunity for advertisers as well for the consumer to consume as much more content. Earlier, you had specific afternoon time or evening time when one would watch TV. Now you can watch video content at any given time and of your liking. So I think OTT are only adding to the overall viewership for video content.
Yeah, I mean, completely. It's an additive. That's my take as well. So a very similar question, but from Anunita, which I think Ashish has already answered, to be honest, which says, with increased consumption of content on OTT platform, would you consider it as a threat or to television, or would it complement television? I think you have already answered that. Something for Shashi sir, somebody from Ninad. Do you think digital can overtake TV advertisers this year in terms of share in spends of FMCG? Specifically FMCG, he's asking.
No chance. I mean,
No.
let me say it clearly, no chance. So
nowhere near.
Yeah, so this is a myth. I mean, everyone's nodding on this panel, everyone's nodding. They all have platforms.
Yeah.
I think with no offense meant anywhere, I think digital is overstated. There is no third-party measurement just now. So you don't know what, so we have a large digital company, we have big clients, but television is heavy consumption today. There's a large bulge in India which consumes television. It's not going away anywhere. So I think it's a pipe dream. And digital, if that is the case, digital CPMs are so low, compared to TV CPMs. TV CPMs are far higher. So there's the question of overtaking. In fact, this leads me, Partho sir, to a question which I want to ask the panelists.
Yeah.
What is the implication of the 12-minute if it happens?
What's the implication of, sorry?
The 12-minute guideline if it comes in.
So that's another question which has also come up. Will be the impact of NTO 2.0 and 12-minute? I thought I'll come to that last. So anyway, please.
Let me take it first and then possibly Mahesh can add to it. There are two ways to look at it. Obviously, see, frankly, at this time, 10+2 is not the, overall good thing for our TV industry or any kind of mandate of, managing the TV time at this time, because we are looking at increasing consumption. Price points have come down, and hence the volumes are the only one which are helping us to propel the revenue back to the broadcasters. But at the same time, there is a self-regulation, at least by GC, cinema genre, etc. It will impact primarily the news genre, which are not maintaining, 12-minute
music.
Otherwise, other than music and news, they are not maintaining the overall 12-minute this thing. And but however, if you see the other genres like GC, or there is hardly or no flouting of norms by these genres, GC, cinema, etc. So from that perspective, yes, but what may happen is that because of the sentiment of it that it is getting regulated, the price point may go up, which will then for the interim period will harm advertisers, because they are looking at, at a little subsidized pricing at current situation. And while, it's subsidized than pre-COVID, going forward, we are looking at even coming back to the same pricing. It is still a very good price, because from an advertiser point of view, because their businesses are also impacted, and we would want their businesses to go back to the earlier level and actually increase from there. And hence we would also then increase our pricing, etc. Because, unless we are able to, add value to the advertiser's business, our business will never grow. I am always of this, fact that, or the opinion that my business cannot grow unless my advertiser's business grow. So once the advertiser's business grows, the price point will automatically come back, because the demand and supply situation will be such that it will automatically push the price point up. TV is anyway regulated more than 12 minutes. It's not gone on the other GC, etc. In fact, it was under 12 minutes in last 3 to 4 months. It's just that it is last month only we have started to fill up the 100% inventory. But what it will impact the news genre, or the other some smaller genres like music, etc. And news is under stress, specifically more from a point of view of overall revenue and the expenses they are actually incurring. Now, with their viewership growing, and as Rajiv just mentioned that it's come up to about 10 to 12% of viewership. There is they need to increase the pricing, etc. out there. So if they get, it will be a double jeopardy for them, frankly, from the new genre perspective. Their advertising time will come down, and their price point is still not reached to the viewership. They should be actually asking the price at their viewership. So it will be a loss overall to the exchequer of the news channels, and overall then it will impact the broadcasting also. So regulation, self-regulation, I always propagate self-regulation, and I think most of us are fulfilling self-regulation at the broadcaster end.
Yeah. Mahesh, your take?
Actually, I totally agree with Ashish. I think, first of all, I think over-regulation is not good for any industry. And we are, at the end of the day, we are a consumer product. We reach households day in and day out. Every day we reach households. And I think, to get the eyeballs, it is important that we regulate it ourselves, because frankly, if we go and take the consumer for granted, the fact is that the consumer is going to leave us, and that is a bigger risk for us than anything else. So, and I think television companies, and especially the GCs, have reached a good balance of the ad edit ratio, or if you call it the programming and advertising ratio. And so cutting that down, actually, it's bad news for everybody. And though, like Ashish said, it's not going to impact the GCs as much. Having said that, at this point of time, having inflation, and I think Ashish and me, all of us are just looking at going back to a pre-COVID levels. Actually, we are not even talking about really inflation, and this could lead to inflation, because at the end of the day, it's a demand supply. It's a demand supply play, and if we're if there is demand for advertising, and if we constrain the supply, it will lead to price going up, and it's not good news for the advertiser. It's not good, I think. So
for anybody, yeah. What about NTO 2.0?
Let's see. Let's still, how it plays out. I think at one end, it's good that consumers have the option of choosing, and yes, I think all the broadcast companies will work around their price points, and let's see, let the consumer decide, I would say.
Yeah.
Again, see, from my perspective, NTO 2.0 is over-regulation of the overall business, broadcasting business, and as a overall broadcasting and part of IBF, we have IBF has given a this thing reply to the try that we are not in sync with the kind of NTO 2.0 regulation which has come in with more and more clauses, etc. And regulating consumer, consumer pricing where there is a competitiveness in the industry, it should be well left to the consumer to decide what price they want to really buy it at. You start regulating, FMCG pricing or mobile handset pricing, etc. then where does the economy will go? And with the kind of overall today situation which is there in terms of business situation which is there, regulating at this point of time, it will be detrimental to the overall business.
NTO 1.0 itself has upset a lot of things. So
yes,
more.
So it impacted the reach, but see, NTO 1.0 still, I would say that it gave the choice to the consumer. Now it is up to the choice. Now, with given the choice, you're also regulating the pricing, which is not right.
That's true. That's true. I think, thank you all. I think we are well within time and just about 5 o'clock, and wonderful discussion. Good to see you all once again. I mean, though on screens per se.
My
But
pleasure too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Partha.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.